Welcome to another Monday edition, the President's Day edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so. That's why. And also, too, we also have our other five live shows that are streaming on that app as well. If you happen to miss it, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Also on Sports Zone Chicago, you can follow them on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, Sports Zone Chicago. If you want to catch the audio version of this program, Second City Sports, you can do so by subscribing to War on Anger. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. And you can go to War Media on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at War Media, WARR Media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We don't unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have a question or comment for us during our 2-hour extravaganza, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago's Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something stupid, Lakeena will give you the Cole Anthony boot, Timberland boot.
Well, I don't like Timberlands. So I'm not a big fan of it. So I'll do it with my old fashioned Nikes, just Nike sneaks. So just I'll kick you guys out. I'll give you the boot. Bye bye.
I love when I say that. Lakeena, we're coming off this 71st annual NBA All-Star Game, which took place in Cleveland last night. Team LeBron James defeated Team Durant by the score of 163-160. Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors was your MVP. He scored 50 points. He becomes the second player in NBA history to score 50 points in an All-Star game. Anthony Davis was the first back in 2017, that sham of a game in New Orleans in 2017, which was awful, but we won't get into that. But Curry last night scored 50 points off of 17 to 30 shooting, including 6 of 27 from three-point range, and he had a monstrous third quarter, which in my opinion, clinched the MVP award for him in 36 minutes of action. The Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, who won last year's MVP in another sham of an All-Star game in Atlanta, he scored 30 points off of 15 to 21 shooting. LeBron James, the kid from Akron, in 36 minutes of action. I'm surprised he played that many minutes in this All-Star game, given his knee injury right now. But he scored 24 points off of 11 to 24 shooting. Nikolai Jokic had 10 points. DeMar DeRozan, yes, the starter for Team LeBron from the Chicago Bulls, in 27 minutes of action, he had 10 points. Jimmy Butler, a former Chicago Bull, now with the Heat, he had 2 points in 9 minutes of action. Jared Allen, my guy from Cleveland, he had 10 points in 24 minutes to go along with his 9 rebounds. Chris Paul, which we'll talk about in a minute, in 2 minutes of action, he did not score a point. Luka Doncic had 8 points. Darius Garland, another Cleveland Cavalier All-Star, in 24 minutes of action, he had 13 points. Fred VanVleet, I don't want to say hometown favorite from Chicago, but he's from Rockville, Illinois, down next door to Chicago, rather. He has 6 points in 9 minutes of action. On the flip side for Team Durant, Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics had 8 points. Joel Embiid had 36 points in 31 minutes of action. Trae Young for the Atlanta Hawks had 13 points, including 3 and 9 shooting from downtown. John Morant had a couple of 360 dunks, had 6 points in total. And off the bench for Team Durant, Devin Booker in 30 minutes of action had 20 points. LaMelo Ball from the Charlotte Hornets had 18 points. Dejounte Murray, who was the last minute replacement from the San Antonio Spurs, had 17 points. Lakeena, what did you think about the last night's All-Star game, and which telecast did you consume the most? The traditional one on TNT or TBS?
I switched back and forth from the traditional into the Manning cast style one that they did with the Inside the NBA crew, EJ and Charles and Kenny and Shaq, and of course they had Draymond there. He was couldn't play, but they had him on the sort of like gave us a view from the sidelines there, and look, I mean, I think the All Star can kind of save the weekend. I feel like because that the All Star, we'll get into the whole thing, but the skills competition was just blah, and I don't know who thought changing it up was a good idea. Hey, you know what? Let's get your three top players from Cleveland, and then you have your three top rookies, and then let's get Giannis and his brothers. Okay, and then they kind of changed the way they changed sort of like the format a little bit, so it went longer than it should have. And then they had the 3-point, I think, was the best. It's easy the best one among the All Star Saturday night festivity. Of course, Karl Anthony Towns ended up winning that. Of course, Zach. Unfortunately, he got canned. He didn't have. I think it was probably like 14 or 15 points, and he got knocked down in the first round. But look, Karl Anthony Towns put on a show, and he broke the record for the 3-point shooting competition and ended up winning that one. And then the whole thing with the dunk contest, it was just terrible. It was torture. You knew it was bad when Cole Anthony decided to wear Timberlands. And if you're Orlando, you're probably thinking to yourself, like, oh, good grief. Like, I hope he doesn't, like, break his ankles or has somebody said, like, plantar fasciitis, things like that. Something from that for the rest of the season because of that. And, guys were missing dunks. And, of course, Obi Toppin, kind of won by default because... because he was the only one that actually made a dunk. And I think Shaq's look, I know Shaq's kind of, it became like a meme, Shaq's kind of went viral with the look. And I think his look kind of, I think, spoke for all of us. So the whole thing was just terrible. And of course the game, I think, saved it. It was a really nicely produced, it was a really very nicely produced game from yesterday. They had the 75, team, we'll talk about that too in a little bit, but it was all set up. I mean, I think Curry had like 18 threes or something like that, breaking the record there. And of course, LeBron ended it, because 162 was the point that they had to do, and of course, LeBron shoot a 3-point jumper to help in that. There was great scoring all around. I know that Zach played a little bit longer than I think any of us thought. So I think, and they have like a few days off too before they don't play again until Friday, the Bulls do. So you gotta think, okay, let them rest for a few days, fine. I thought, the Manning style cast was better. Although I think Dwayne Wade, saved the traditional broadcast, I feel like, but yeah, I think all around it was a pretty, this like I said, the parts for Sunday, I think, saved a lot of it, but the whole thing was just, we talked about it a few weeks ago, Sid, with the Pro Bowl and how bad that was. They're gonna have to change it up a little bit for the All-Star Saturday night and that whole weekend. It's just, they're gonna have to kind of change it. But again, we'll talk about that in a second. But I think Sunday was definitely the best part about the whole weekend, but what do you think?
I'll start with the Sunday game first. So, of course, I watched the entire Manning cast on TBS. Of course, the Inside the NBA crew, Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Smith, Charles Barkley, and Shaq. They were good. Draymond Green, as Ernie Johnson said at the beginning of the broadcast, he dressed like he was one of the Spinners. That's an R&B group from the 60s and 70s for most of you younger folks and listeners to our show. But Draymond Green is clearly setting up for his next career when Charles Barkley decides to finally hang it up as far as broadcasting. Draymond Green is going to take that spot. He's already working for Colin Cowherd of FS1 and Fox Sports Radio. Colin Cowherd has his own podcast company called The Volume, so Draymond Green has his own show on there. And so Draymond is definitely setting himself up for a post-career, which is very smart of him to do. He's not the first one to do it. He's not the last one to do it, but he's the latest current athlete to do it. But I enjoyed that Inside the NBA telecast on TBS. It was one comment that they were talking about the 75 greatest players that were honored at halftime. But this is during the first half, and they were bringing up Dikembe Mutombo. I believe it was Kenny the Jet Smith or Charles Barkley said Draymond was to the extent of they was comparing him to Dikembe Mutombo. They was talking about Dikembe Mutombo. Then they brought up Rudy Gobert, who I believe at the time just made a dunk. And Draymond Green, you could tell he was annoyed by this comment. I don't know if you caught it. He's like, "Don't compare. I thought you would compare me to Mutombo. Don't you dare compare me to Rudy Gobert. Golden State and Utah met in the playoffs a couple of times a few years ago. He's like, don't you dare compare me to Rudy Gobert." But you could tell he was annoyed, but he was kind of having fun with it at the same time. But I enjoyed that TBS Manning style cast last night. As long as you make it interesting and you have not issues, but you have just being yourself. You have interesting people to talk to. These kind of telecasts will work. Will the NBA do this going forward in terms of the playoffs? I doubt it. It wouldn't be a bad idea, but for an
Yeah,
all-star game, it's a great idea
I
because
don't
it's an
think
exhibition.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do it for the playoffs. I don't think they want to have anything. Someone says something and it kind of deters from the playoff and the games themselves. So I doubt you're gonna see it in the playoffs. I don't think they may wants to do that, but I can
Mhm,
probably see them maybe doing this regularly. For the All Star game. I think because people need to kind of like they just kind of like punch it up and kind of like jazz it up a little bit.
mhm,
And so I think they'll probably do that going forward. But it's sort of one of those things where you gotta keep people interested. It's the first Sunday without football, and people need something, some type of entertainment, some type of, kind of like,
mhm.
sort of, pizzazz that'll kind of, get people to watch and tune in and listen. And I think this was a great alternative to it. I mean, I think I kind of feel as though, like, unlike the Manicast, it's on site because you get annoyed. You kind of get annoyed with it because the signals and everything, delayed,
Mhm.
reactions and stuff like that. So that kind of annoys me. At least in this case, everyone's there so that you can kind of talk to people and it kind of seems more natural and such. So I don't mind that, and I think they'll probably do this going forward. Especially, we'll see what the ratings are. They won't come out till like later on, but I want to see what the ratings are because I'm sure it rated pretty well, especially the way they were promoting it. And as far as the whole thing and everything else, and as Steph Curry, I think just hit another three too. I think as we were talking about this, but the reaction with D Wade and AI there was somebody else I forgot who it was, but shoot, but yeah, it was like a photo of them as he broke the record, and that was a really cool moment there. So yeah, again, it was like I said before. I think the game kind of saved the whole weekend because even the celebrity game was sort of boring. It just makes you wish for the old rock and jocks from MTV from back in the day. So
Mhm,
I think that. Oh, that was Reggie Miller, of course. That was he and Duke D-Way were doing the game together with Kevin Harlan, and they kind of Key Harlan kind of went away for a little bit and kind of let D-Wade and Reggie kind of do their thing. So with
mhm.
AI and they as they reacted to that 3-pointer that Steph was breaking the record, but yeah, and it's sort of one of those things you're kind of like, you know what, you got to jazz up a little bit because everybody, especially after what happened with the Pro Bowl a couple of weeks ago, I think people need something to kind of okay, make us want to watch these All Star games, these exhibition games. So I think this is sort of a nice way to do it, a nice alternative to it too. So it ended up being an okay weekend. I guess, like I said before, I think Sunday kind of saved it for everybody,
Mhm.
but I think the stuff leading up to it was kind of it can kind of go without, but I thought it was a really solid All Star game. And also just do the whole production with the 75. We'll get to that in a second, but
Mhm.
it was actually pretty solid.
You listen to Sega City Sports on a Monday edition, a special President's Day edition of Sega City Sports. We're live in the 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakeena here with you discussing the NBA All Star Weekend 2022 from Cleveland. What would you change about All Star Saturday? Would you keep the same format for the actual All Star game? Would you change it back to the old East and West? You can place your questions or comments in the comment section on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Place your questions and comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let me give my thoughts on All Star Saturday night. It was okay. Like I said, it was dragging. Like I said, they really didn't need to change up the skills competition. They really didn't need to do that. I think that took longer than anything. Really, did you really have to tinker with that? I
Mm-mm.
get which used to be the rookie game 20 years ago. Now it's a Rising Stars challenge. I got why they did that. I didn't have any problem with that. But did you really have to change up the skills challenge? Really? I'll leave it at that. But the slam dunk, I was very disappointed. We talked about this on our last episode on Friday, Lakeena. Opie
Mm-hmm.
Toppin, who played at Dayton, which is in the state of Ohio, obviously. He was the most recognizable name that I saw on that list. Of course, Cole Anthony. Of course, we remember watching his father play. I know he's still doing some broadcasting here and there. But you really didn't see any big names, and I agree with our panelists, including Terrence Tomlin, friend of the show, from the Bigs. He said, you can get some bigger names into that slam dunk contest. Most of those players for the last several years, maybe
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of Donovan Mitchell, who ended up winning in 2018 Los Angeles.
2018.
Yeah, not even no big names participating in the dunk contest, and that. Yeah, I think that's one thing you'll have to fix. You have to entice those bigger names to get into the contest. What's the bigger prize pool? What's the incentive? You had to get the bigger names in the dunk contest. Also, too, Lakeena, remember they tried this a couple times in the '90s, and then they brought it back a decade ago, and then they let it go. I'm talking about when, of course, Nate Robinson back in '06, he took about 20 chances
Yes,
to make
20
one
chances.
dunk.
Yep.
And remember,
Yeah.
the next couple years they added the clock. And
Yep.
remember, they
And then
did
that
this
was
a couple
annoying
times back in the
too.
'90s. They need
Yeah.
to add the clock back because you notice it made those players attempt their dunks with urgency, and it made them use their creativity and not screw around. They should bring the clock back. They had
What
2 minutes to make 3 dunks.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the clock thing was kind of annoying. I would just say if you're gonna do the clock thing, let's just put a minimum on it. Maybe like have five attempts minimum. If you're not gonna, if they don't, make it after the fifth attempt, then either it doesn't count or you have to, do something. Now the clock thing was sort of annoying, so I think that's why people, I think that's why they ventured away from that because viewers felt that the clock, the shot clock, doing that was kind of annoying. I would say cut down on the attempts, maybe have like 5 attempts or something like that. So because after the third or fourth attempt, you know what you're doing. So I would say maybe just do it that way and just just say, hey, 5 attempts. That's all you're gonna get. Be creative. So I would say maybe put it like in the middle. If you want to do the skills competition first, fine. Put the dunk contest in the middle, and then perhaps maybe at the end do a 3-point because that's sort of like people. The guys are shooting more threes than anything. People want to be like Steph Curry and shoot threes from like Akron or something or Dayton or something like that. So maybe you have more emphasis on that and probably have maybe making the 3-point contest be kind of like, because that's sort of now the more marquee event now. So I would say maybe just do it that way. Go back to the old way of the skills competition because that whole thing, I don't know whoever pitched that were they high or were they I just feel like who thought there was no need to change it. I would say maybe perhaps
Mhm.
maybe have like less teams do like a race kind of thing where you do the skills thing and then maybe have like just do what they did before. Don't f around with the formula as they say. So and like I said before and the whole thing was just sort of, dragged and it was just white noise. I kind of just kept it in the background as I was turning back and forth from some of the hoops games I was watching too. We'll get to that later on in the show, but that's really all I did with that.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Obviously, with the skills competition, it should change it back to when they had individual players doing it and competing. They had like 4 or 5 players competing against each other, and they should keep it in that way. Now, I had to disagree with you on the dunk contest. There's still the marquee event on All Star Saturday, but you got to get the bigger names in there, and they got to start making their dunks. And the anger goes towards Cole Anthony and Jalen Green. I thought both those guys had great dunks, but they just kept missing and missing. And I guarantee you, if you had a clock on them, they would have more urgency to make their dunks instead of taking that sweet ass time, taking things for granted. I get there's an entertainment aspect to it as well, but you gotta go out there and make your dunks. You could do all this showboating stuff later. Just make the dunks. That's all. Stop lollygagging around.
Well, that's why I would say like do the attempts thing, have like, give them 5 attempts to do it. And if not, it doesn't count. So, that way they'll give them more urgency to do it if we get to the third or fourth attempt. So I don't know. But yeah, if you want to put the clock on there by like the latter two, if you get to the third or fourth, they can put a clock on there. But I think right now, I think you're kind of just rushing and the quality isn't there. And look, I would say maybe okay, if you want to get the big names to to do the dunk contest, add some incentives. Have like a
Mhm.
$50,000 in the pot, or do like they did when and one was at the height of its popularity. Do maybe put like some money in center court, and then look, you win this money if you make do it like horse. Maybe some guy makes a dunk, and then the other guys, whoever 3 or 4 of the guys that are part of the contest, you have them match it and do it kind of like that way to kind of sort of jazz up a bit.
That's not a
So
bad idea. The difficult the creativity of the dunk. I know some people say the creativity is gone. I I'm 50-50 on that. If the dunk is creative, you put more money in the pot for the
yep,
winner. You could do
have
something
it
like that. I
Yeah,
agree
and
with
have it
that.
grow. Yeah, have it
Yeah,
grow and
yeah.
grow, and if maybe put like 5,000 or 1,000, however, and whoever wins it, they can give it that to their their favorite charity or whatever. Just
Hmm.
get some incentive. Maybe you'll get some of the big names to come. So because I think I feel like LeBron should have done it at least once. I think
Yeah.
Steph. I know he's not a dunker, but I think he probably should have done it at least once. So when I just feel kind of like okay, let's try to jazz this up a little bit, make it a marquee event. And look, it's going to be in Utah next year, so good luck with that. I like the music of it. You had Earth, Wind, and Fire. Look, any excuse to have Earth, Wind and Fire playing your halftime show is more than okay with me. So hey,
Hmm.
I'm always down with that. So, But yeah, I think
R.I.P. Maurice White.
yes, one of the founding members of that group. But Vernell's still around, so I love him. He's he was jamming all along last night. But it's definitely, of course, you had Mary J too. I guess Mary J Black's gonna be vying for do all the halftime shows this year for all.
Well, she broke now, so
yeah. We might
that's a whole nother issue. But
you had to Google that, folks. But yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be playing the Final Four in about a month. So. I'm just saying. I love you, Mary J, but I don't blame you. But it's sort of like before. I know we're up against it, but because we had to get to the NBA 75 thing they had last night during the halftime. But yeah, I think he's got to jazz up a little bit. Have people, give folks an incentive for his top stars to play. Do like a rock and jock type of thing, or the whole Family Feud sort of thing with Steph and Aisha and who was the rapper? I forgot who the rapper was, and his wife. Shoot, I forgot. I would say do like a Family Feud kind of thing, where have like the rookies and the veterans, they play each other, have somebody host it, and just do it that way if you want to kind of jazz up a little bit, and that might actually get people interested.
We'll have more on our review of All-Star Weekend on the other side. And plus, we'll get into the 75th anniversary halftime ceremony. And we'll get into our look at the preview of the second half of the season for your Chicago Bulls. This is the Monday edition, the President's Day edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash, powered by the Score app on 1330 and 95.9 Sports Zone Chicago. Men's basketball this weekend, 12th ranked Illinois won at number 19 Michigan State 79-74. Jacob Grandison with 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Illini now 19-7 on the year and 12-4 in the Big Ten. Northwestern lost at Minnesota 77-60. Pete Nance with 18 points in the loss as the Wildcats dropped to 5-11 in the Big Ten, 12-13 overall. The Blackhawks fell to the Florida Panthers yesterday 5-2, the third straight loss for the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago is back home on Thursday when they play host to the New Jersey Devils. Bulls are back home Thursday to host Atlanta. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. I'm John Thayer on 1330 and 95.9 Sports Zone Chicago.
For your consideration, the most exciting debut of the season, unlike anything you've ever seen. It's the new Staples Connect store. Critics call it jaw-dropping. Victoria Adams of Retail Review says, I laughed, I cried, I redesigned my logo and bought an Xbox. Staples Connect has it all. New small business services, innovative tools to work and learn from anywhere. It will change the way you think about Staples.
Staples Connect, now open at 5665 West Wilshire, 1 block east of the La Brea Tar Pits. Learn more at staplesconnect.com/LA.
Dell Technologies President's Day business sale has arrived. For a limited time, save up to 45% on all our latest gear to work from anywhere with fast free shipping. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business, so now's the time for incredible savings on PCs, along with servers, monitors, and docks, all with free shipping and quick installation and setup through Dell Installation Services. Get started by shopping online or contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. Again, the number to call is 877-ASK-DELL.
Welcome back to the Monday edition, the President's Day edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. If you have a question or comment for us during our now 90 minutes of extravaganza, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook. Type in questions or comments in the comment section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you as we continue to review NBA All-Star Weekend 2022 from Cleveland. And of course, Team LeBron defeated Team Durant 163-160 in last night's 71st annual NBA All-Star game. Lakeena, excuse me. Let's get back to the conversation how we should revamp All-Star Saturday night. If you want to do away with the skills competition overall, that's fine by me, but you have to replace it with this event. I think you brought it up in our last segment. We talked about this. We were trying to revamp the Pro Bowl a few weeks ago. You brought up the MTV Rock and Jock those specials MTV did back in the day. You
Oh,
can bring
yes.
that back because I'll give a historical context. Remember before they brought on the skills competition back in '04 in Los Angeles during that All-Star weekend, the WNBA and the NBA partner up, and they had this 2-ball competition, which was okay, but it and I know people got annoyed by it as the years went on. I understood that at the time that the WNBA was young, they of course they needed the NBA to promote it. But if you want to add a replace the skills competition or just add another event, bring the MTV style Rocket Jock Jam back. Have your NBA your not your NBA legends because they were getting injured the last couple years. That's why they stopped that. But just bring in just a couple of NBA All Stars and bringing some celebrities that can actually hoop in a decent way.
Yes.
They can hoop in a decent way, have a quick 10-minute game, or something to that effect. And I think people will get involved and watch it. That's just me.
Give it to maybe like first to 20 or 30 or something like that. Nice and quick. It can last about 10 minutes. And look, have them, see maybe or do a horse style where like they have to match it, do something like that, especially if they hit a shot from like the 10-point line or something. But yeah, you
get those 25-point shots.
Yeah, exactly. 25-point shots. Yeah, you saw from like half court or something like that. So yeah, do something like that to kind of jazz up a little bit, because I think that it kind of just needs to be some fine tuning, and I feel like, look, that's a big moneymaker. That's a big moneymaker for TNT. So you're not going to do away with it. So I think it definitely needs to be some, punching up, if you will. And look, for the dunk contest, get some of the big names. Like we said, put some money into the pot at half court and do like horse style where whoever, if they make a dunk first, that way you can get the creativity going up. I know there's still some things you can do. I mean, I don't know what else. I don't know what's been done, but jumping over seven guys. I think that they've done that already, and the compact Kia that Blake Griffin took over, which was only the front part, mind you. It wasn't the whole freaking car. But
right.
yeah, I mean, kind of just and the blindfold with Sergio Sabalos. I know, but it finds out that he actually had holes in the eye, so he wasn't exactly blindfold. So yeah, so I would say maybe just jazz that up a little bit. So kind of make it interesting and make it exciting, and that people won't be feel like they're being dragged the whole night.
Yeah, like I said, back to the dunk contest. We mentioned this before the break. The degree of difficulty of the dunk, if you successfully make it, the more money goes in the pot. I can get with that.
Yeah, also point to they score 50, that's more money you put into the pot. So yeah, so as some incentives, just make it interesting and exciting, because I think last Saturday, I think All-Star Saturday night, I think it showed you that no, you need to make it a little bit interesting for people to stay and watch.
Yeah, so as Sean Sierra, our guy on Sean and Maya in the morning on Sports Zone Chicago every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to noon, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. He and Jason Palmer, what's up, cuz? Catch him tonight at 6 o'clock right here on Sports Zone Chicago. They were talking about the NBA usually make changes to All-Star Saturday to calm the crowd down, especially via the social media crowd down. I think you'll see some changes. What exactly are those changes? We don't know. But they brought up the NHL, which we did as well. They had the divisions battle off against each other, and then whoever wins those first two games in those first two periods, they battle off in the third period, in which they play actual hockey. I'm using air quotes for those listening back on the podcast version. Of course, the Pro Bowl is a joke. Baseball, I'm not saying it's perfect, but you leave it as it is. I like the home run derby contest better than the actual game. Of course, they changed the home run derby a few years ago, and it's worked out very well. So if you're a baseball fan, you're not complaining on that front. But the NBA just makes some slight changes. I know people say you shouldn't have to change just for the sake of change. You have to change with the time somewhat. But it's just going to be interesting what they do next year, as you mentioned, as the All-Star Week goes to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Should be interesting there. So you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Cindy Brown, which is he. I'm Lakeena McGee. That's me. And you listen to us here on Sports Zone Chicago. Let's talk about the NBA 75 celebration that they had during all weekend, but they kind of culminated during the halftime. I thought that was probably the best part of that non-basketball related. But the whole thing, that I won't name them all. We talked about it like a while back when they named this list. Of course, probably the big stories here. Of course, LeBron, Steph, some of the current guys made the list. Giannis, made the list as well. And also too, of course, you saw Dennis Rodman, of course, Michael Jordan, who I think a lot of people there was this question whether or not he would actually make it there, because of course he was in Daytona for the 500. We'll talk about that in a little bit. One of his drivers finished runner-up, just missed winning the Daytona 500, but he came back just in time for the festivities. Of course, he was introduced last, and look, he got a nice ovation from the folks in Cleveland. So I guess people are over. Well, that was 30 years. That was 30 plus years ago. So people were, I'm sure Cleveland folks are probably over that. Plus, they've won a championship since then. So
Exactly.
That's probably why there's no, there's no hard feelings there. But yeah, you saw, Bill Russell, of course, Rick Barry, of course, R.I.P. to Kobe Bryant. That's so hard to say. Of course, you had Ray Allen. Clyde Drexler was there, Kevin Garnett, Magic Johnson, of course, AI, of course, we mentioned earlier, among many others, James Harden as well. It's sort of one of those days where this thing was brought up too. I mean, Dwight Howard wasn't on that list. Anthony Davis was on the list. I know some people kind of, there's still this thing about whether or not he should be on the list. I know Klay Thompson was very vocal about him not being on the list. So I know he was, he still says that, but I mean, unless you're gonna take away some like the older guys out, I don't know who you take out. But Paul Arizin, I mean, are you gonna take him out? Sam Jones, who just passed away a couple of weeks ago, you're not gonna take him out.
No.
Hal Greer, you can't take him out either. So I think it was just like I think overall they did it right. But what did you think? And we'll talk more about that.
Like I said, it was a beautiful ceremony. Of course, I don't know if you saw the pictures that made the rounds on social media of Michael Jordan and LeBron James hugging right before the ceremony.
Wait,
and of course,
you mean there's no animosity between them? Really? They actually like each other? Oh my God! How dare they actually be adults? While everybody else is sort of fighting over who's the greatest. At least that these two are kind of like they found just like.
Well, what was Last Dance really about? I'm just saying, but also too. Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan, they were joking around before the ceremony, talking about we can still play one-on-one against each other.
Really?
There's just a bunch of old guys, quote unquote, talking smack. But you love it though because it was in a root of competition and in a root of friendly competition. So I enjoyed that clip as well. But
you're 59.
I don't think.
MJ's just turned 59 like last weekend. Magic, I think he's gonna be like 64 or something like that this year. So like, okay, I actually would pay to see that though. Actually,
but this guy. Yeah, but this guy is not on this list, and we talked about Draymond Green earlier being compared to this player. But Ernie Johnson brought up a great point about Dikembe Mutombo not being on that list. I was like, I think he's still. Then not the all-time leader, but one of the second or third in block shots in NBA history. Yeah, and he wasn't on the list. I found that kind of surprising as well. And so you could take Anthony Davis off the list and put Mutombo's name on that list. I'll leave it at that. But like you said, I agreed with the majority of that list. You're not going to make everybody happy, but I think they got this list right. It was a beautiful ceremony. They had a few of the current All-Stars speaking, including Devin Booker and Karl Anthony Towns. I know he saluted his parents after winning the 3-point shootout contest on Saturday night. But they got this list right. It was a beautiful ceremony. As you mentioned, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I could listen to them all day long. We won't get into it here. But they were jamming out pretty well. And so it was a beautiful ceremony. It was very poignant. So.
It was, and I feel like it was sort of weird. I think some of the guys that weren't there, they had them. I guess they had them like behind, like I don't know if they were in a studio or whatever, or they had like a green screen with like a gray like.
I saw Dave Towns up there waving a thumbs up, yay!
Waving, like it was kind of. It was I don't know who they were waving to. It was kind of. I'm sure this was pre-taped, but I'm sure. I get. Tim Duncan doesn't really like to. He's not a big proponent of being in public. A lot of kind of kept a low profile, so I can see why he didn't go. But I know some other guys. I know that somebody joked that look, these guys have been walking around. Some of them have like bad hips, bad knees, and bad feet. And such. So like, can we get back to the game? So I think there were some people that were kind of making play for that. But Vanessa Bryant was there, of course, in honor of Kobe. So that was nice to see that she made the ceremony. You saw Isaiah, of course, Isaiah Thomas, Bill Walton, D. Wade, and Jerry West and such. I mean, it's James Worthy. I mean, some of it was kind of weird. Larry Bird, I think, was probably like, you know what, I don't need to be. I'll do the whole weird wavy thing, but I'm not going to be a part of it. So he's probably just like, you know what, I'm good. So like, it was other than that weird thing. I mean, yeah, some guys they just show like okay, let's do a snapshot or something. Of course, but it was fine. I mean, I know some people were making fun of that part of it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't have a problem with the ceremony at all. I know Spike Lee did the whole introduction thing. He actually got some applause. I know it was in Cleveland. He got some applause, but the whole thing was put together beautifully by the NBA, and I didn't have any complaints about it at all.
Yeah, and also too, I guess Steph was booed. If you guys remember Steph during the game early on, even in the intros, he was booed. They booed him mercilessly. But when he started hitting all those threes, I guess they couldn't help but cheer. So they didn't have a choice. So especially during the ceremony, the halftime ceremony for the NBA 75. So yeah, but I think it was a nice ceremony. Whoever put that together, they should definitely should get a raise. And it was very nicely done.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the President's Day edition, live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. As we are reviewing the NBA All-Star Weekend, if you have a question or comment, what did you think about the NBA All-Star Weekend 2022 from Cleveland? Go to facebook.com/Sports Zone Chicago, or go to Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube and place your questions and comments in the comment section there, and Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's turn the page to the second half of the season. But before we get to the Bulls, I mentioned Chris Paul at the top of the show. It was some breaking news that was first reported by TNT last night. Chris Paul, who played only 2 minutes in the All-Star game, it was revealed that he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a thumb injury. Lakeena, we talked about this on our show on Friday. The Phoenix, no one expected them to make it to the finals last year. They did. They lost the title to the Milwaukee Bucks after leading that best-of-seven series 2-0. This year, they are back better than ever. Devin Booker, who was an all-star again. They added JaVale McGee, which a type of play like him they didn't have last year. Also, too, they're battling with the Golden State Warriors for that top spot in the West. Hopefully, both these teams will meet in the Western Conference Finals. That remains to be seen. Now, with this Chris Paul injury going into the fray, Lakeena, what's your outlook for Phoenix? Do you think that Chris Paul will come back sooner than 8 weeks? That puts him at the end of the regular season?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Of course, you can tell the way he didn't want to raise his right hand, because I guess he had that index finger. He has a kind of like a fusion fracture or something like that on his index finger. So that's unfortunately that's been bothering him, and I think we'll see what happens there. I think hopefully now the emphasis will be on Devin Booker, but I think you got Ayton, you got Mikal Bridges, Crowder's been really solid. Guys are just gonna have to step up. I mean, campaign. You're going to see more campaign, folks. I mean, get ready for more of that. And Elfrid Payton as well. Also, too, you might see Devin Booker shoot more. So I think that's probably what you're going to see. And they have a pretty brutal schedule these last 23 games. And this is going to be kind of like when they got OKC on Thursday and New Orleans. They have that Sunday afternoon game against Utah. That's going to be on ABC, and they got another Sunday game after that against Milwaukee. You've got the Lakers, on Sunday night game on ESPN. Of course, they play the Bulls also too during that time as well. So they play both LA teams multiple times, and Utah multiple times. So and Miami as well. So they got a pretty brutal schedule. Now, if you can keep yourselves at 500. If you're the Suns, perhaps stay in that top seed in the West, and perhaps maybe hold down the fort until Chris Paul comes back, whether it's right at the end of the regular season or right at the beginning of the playoffs after the play-in stuff. So it's all kind of like all big question mark at this point. But yeah, this is gonna be a big test for the Suns, absolutely.
Yeah, I was watching that interview with Devin Booker last night following the All-Star game. He said that everybody has to give in a little bit more. And he talked about that he challenged himself to be more of a vocal leader. I think they'll fall off a little bit, but how far that remains to be seen. I don't think they're going to fall right out of the top of 6 spots to play in the play-in game unless everybody starts getting injured. But I think Phoenix will still be fine. Like you said, just play around 500. You should be okay. The first couple of games you mentioned coming out of the All-Star break, those should be 2 easy wins. Now, after that remains to be seen. But I think Phoenix will be okay. I don't think they should fall no lower than third, maybe fourth. But they're going to take a hit. But I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as people think it will be.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing where, like I said, I don't think they might still stay at the top. Who knows? I mean, look, I said we don't know what Golden State's going to be because there might be some times where they have their own shooting issues. So look, Steph looked good during the All-Star break. We've seen times when he has an off shooting night. So we'll see if there's going to be more of those. So we just don't know at this point. And look, who knows? Look, CP3 might come back sooner. Again, we don't know, but that's going to be interesting to see. Now, going back home here for the Bulls, they've got a pretty tough schedule too. They have Atlanta twice, including on Thursday. Then they have Miami on next Monday. They have Milwaukee next Friday night. That's an ESPN game. They play Utah and they play they play Phoenix, of course. They play Toronto a couple more times. So they've got a pretty tough schedule themselves, the Bulls do. So I think if you're still right there. And look, yes, some of the Eastern Conference teams have made trades and such. We'll see how everybody else looks. We'll get to them in a second. But I just think that I don't think they're going to fall too far. I think they're still going to be right there, like the 1 to 3 range. I feel like maybe 4 at the the furthest, but I don't think they're going to like hold to a big free fall. If you can stay right at 500 in these last 23 games, I think you'll be okay.
I think they're 12 or 13 wins away from winning 50 games this season.
Yep.
I think they'll do that. Not going to say with ease, but they should get to at least 50 wins with no problem. I told you, Lakeena, my mark was between 48 and 50 wins for this Bulls team this season. So it looks like I'm going to win that bet. Not comfortably, but I think I'll get there. But as far as the rest of the team is concerned, I like to pick up Tristan Thompson. Remember, we had our good friend on, Rob Shaver from NBC Sports of Chicago, about a month ago. And that was the name that he brought up. The first name he brought up was Tristan Thompson. I gave the thumbs up, and look how that turned out. So I like this move of Tristan Thompson. He doesn't even start. He just come off the bench, give you 15 minutes. I don't need him to score. Just play defense, rebound, block a couple of shots here and there. Just patrol the paint. We've been begging for this all season, Lakeena, and now that Mr. Thompson is on the team, let's see what he does. Hopefully, he doesn't get injured, and if he stays healthy, this is going to make a huge difference for this Bulls team.
We just see what happens with that. Also, they play Philadelphia again. And so we get it. We get our buddy Mac Pack mentioned on Friday during our panel discussion. Yes, they do have. Look, they have a pretty brutal schedule themselves. But again, I think if you can stay within that 500 range, get to 51 or 52, stay within like that top 2 or 3 seed in the East. Again, we'll see what happens with Brooklyn. We'll see what happens with Philly. Their new players. Once we'll see in that game with Philly in a few weeks. Well, I'm sure that's when Harden will be making his first games debut in those first couple of games. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But like I said before, I think as long as they stay within maybe 12 to 15 game range, I think they'll be okay.
And also, too, Lakeena, I think it's safe to say, unless the Bulls have any more unfortunate injuries, as long as you don't stay, if you don't drop below 4, you're okay. As long as you stay between that 2 to 3 seed range, it's going to be tough. We assume that Kevin Durant's going to come back in the Brooklyn Nets will take off. We'll see about the mandate thing with Kyrie. But outside of that, you know that Brooklyn's going to make a run when Durant comes back. Philadelphia looks like they're going to take off. Milwaukee, they're going to win enough games, but they don't care about the regular season that much. It's just getting their guys healthy for the playoffs. If you're the Bulls, let's just say you finish at number 4, you're going to have home court for the first round, but in that second round, you potentially may have to play Brooklyn or Philadelphia in that second round and starting on a roll. You don't want to fall that far.
No, you don't.
Finishing between 2 and 3 is realistic. If you finish number 4, you still get home court for the first round, but that second round and thereafterwards is going to be more challenging within itself. Between 2 and 4, which I expect the Bulls to finish between now and the end of the regular season. Also, too, if everything goes according to plan, in about 3 weeks, you're going to get Alex Caruso back. You're going to get Lonzo Ball back, and that's going to make a huge difference with this team, in addition to the pickup of Tristan Thompson.
We'll see if Miami's still up there. We'll be up there, the number 1 seed right now. Of course, tied with the Bulls. Of course, we'll see.
Mhm.
The Sixers. We'll see once Harden comes. We'll see how he and Joel Embiid get mesh well together. That's going to be the wild card. Brooklyn, who's all the way down to 8th, right now they're in that play-in tournament. We'll see once KD comes back, once Ben Simmons gets going. We'll see how they kind of mesh together. That's going to be another thing. We'll see if Cleveland fall off. I still think they will fall off a little bit. I think they'll be back into that play-in. I think because no one thought that they would be right there, but I think they're not afraid of them anymore. So we'll see. Remember Dragic, Goran Dragic is now with the Nets, so we'll see how much of a difference he makes. Toronto, we'll see where they are. Boston, they're kind of like feast or famine. We don't know what you're gonna get. I know they won like 9 in a row, before they lost before they break, but they're still gonna be around. Atlanta, can they make a move? Washington, they're kind of like, and they're still in that, that they're still right there behind Atlanta for that 10th spot, that last spot for the play-in. We'll see where they are, but also too, Beal's gone for the year, so that they might be it for them. Now, as far as the West goes, the Suns are 6.5 up, so I think with CP3 being out, you have a little bit of a cushion where you can kind of, okay, if you go into a little bit of a slump, okay, you'll still be right there in that 1 seed. So as long as you're still within 500, I think you can still keep that 1 seed. You may go down to a 2 if the Warriors kind of get their shooting together. Memphis, we'll see if Memphis can stay up there. Utah, I know Donovan Mitchell. I know he's now been sick. Nothing COVID related, but there's some other stuff that's going on too. They've also had some injury issues there. Dallas, we'll see Luka. We'll see how everything meshes with them. Denver, I mean, we'll see if Murray might be back sometime next month. Can he contribute? We'll see. Minnesota, they're right there, that 7th spot. Again, we'll see what happens. Both the LA teams, I mean, it's like I said, it's feast or famine with both of them. So we'll see where they both are. And Portland can, with Dave, Anthony Simmons is fairly, he's like, hey, I want to keep playing. So we'll see if they make a move, once Dame gets back. So still a lot to be decided in the NBA, and also to San Antonio and New Orleans. Can they? The Zion thing, we'll have to get to that. But yeah, we'll see. There's still a lot to figure out in both of the Eastern and Western Conference.
Yeah, I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, it's going to be interesting to see who makes a big jump if that happens in the middle of that Western Conference. You have Denver, Utah, and Dallas. Of course, Dallas has been turning it around over the last couple of weeks. Denver, will they take off once Jamal Murray comes back, if he comes back, and going to the bottom half of that play-in tournament bracket, Lakeena? Which LA team makes it right now? The Clippers, will Paul George make a surprise return? We shall see. But the Lakers are the most disappointing team in between those two teams in LA. I don't see it. They may sneak into the play-in tournament, but I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. But it's going to come down to LA, both LA teams. One of them is going to get in. I don't think both of them will get in. And like I said, going back to the middle of that Western Conference bracket, Utah, hopefully Donovan Mitchell is okay. But we've been saying this looking for the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, you have great regular seasons, but you just cannot put it together consistently in the playoffs.
That's been the problem. Also, too, going back to the Clippers, I mean, there's some rumors that maybe Kawhi might come back too about the same time as PG will. So again, that's another situation too that's probably still being decided. So we'll see if and when one or both of them come back, will they make a move? As far as the Lakers, I don't know. I mean, at this point, who knows what the Lakers are going to be at this right now? I mean,
they better hope that LeBron James doesn't mess up his knee again.
Yeah, because he's
since Anthony Davis is out for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's going to be another issue too. So yeah, still, like I said, there's still a lot of questions, and I think, look, the second half, once it starts on Thursday, it'll be fun, and I think, look, there's still a lot of things that could be decided as far as seeding and such. And like I said, there's only like a 4.5, games between the first and the 6th seed, so still a lot to unpack, and I think that's going to be the thing where we'll see what happens. But yeah, the second half, the quote unquote, the third half of the NBA season is sort of like, I know this is a technicality here, but
you're like Lovie Smith, you break it down to quarters, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, because they're way more than halfway. They've already played like 50-something games already. So it's about like 23, 24 games left. So yeah, we're kind of going to like that latter third part of the season now. So yeah, it's still a lot to be decided, but it should be fun.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. We'll review the best and worst from the weekend of college basketball. One person needs to learn this lesson perhaps the hard way. Keep your hands to yourself. We have some sports media news, a boycott in the NFL. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Monday edition, a.k.a. the President's Day edition of Second City Sports. We're live and in living color. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash, powered by the Score app on 1330 and 95.9 Sports Zone Chicago. Men's basketball this weekend, 12th ranked Illinois won at number 19 Michigan State 79-74. Jacob Grandison with 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Illini now 19-7 on the year and 12-4 in the Big Ten. Northwestern lost at Minnesota 77-60. Pete Nance with 18 points in the loss as the Wildcats dropped to 5-11 in the Big Ten, 12-13 overall. The Blackhawks fell to the Florida Panthers yesterday 5-2, the third straight loss for the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago is back home on Thursday when they play host to the New Jersey Devils. Bulls are back home Thursday to host Atlanta. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. I'm John Thayer on 1330 and 95.9 Sports Zone Chicago.
For your consideration, the most exciting debut of the season, unlike anything you've ever seen. It's the new Staples Connect store. Critics call it jaw-dropping. Victoria Adams of Retail Review says, I laughed, I cried, I redesigned my logo and bought an Xbox. Staples Connect has it all. New small business services, innovative tools to work and learn from anywhere. It will change the way you think about Staples.
Staples Connect, now open at 5665 West Wilshire, 1 block east of the La Brea Tar Pits. Learn more at staplesconnect.com/LA.
Dell Technologies President's Day business sale has arrived. For a limited time, save up to 45% on all our latest gear to work from anywhere with fast free shipping. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business, so now's the time for incredible savings on PCs, along with servers, monitors, and docks, all with free shipping and quick installation and setup through Dell Installation Services. Get started by shopping online or contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. Again, the number to call is 877-ASK-DELL.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the Monday edition, aka the President's Day edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid the Kid, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKIDA0, SIDKIDA0.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You have a question or comment for us during our now less than 60 minutes of the extravaganza? You can go to Facebook, the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page, or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, before we get to our main topic in the world of college basketball, let's start out locally. As a number 12 ranked team in the nation, the Illinois Fighting Illini, they went into East Lansing, got a big win, defeating the number 19 ranked Michigan State Spartans and Tom Izzo and crew, 79-74. Kofi Cockburn had another monster game, 27 points with 9 rebounds off of 10 and 15 shooting. Jacob Grandison, you heard in the update, had 24 points along with 5 rebounds, including 6 of 10 shooting from three-point range. He had a monster game, which was very important. My guy, Alfonso Plummer, he had 8 points over 3 and 9 shooting. Trent Frazier had 12 points along with 5 assists and 3 rebounds. But they didn't get very much from their bench. But Granderson had a big game. I think that was more important than Kofi Cockburn's performance. And they dominated Michigan State, especially in that first half with the offensive rebounds. And those two keys were the difference, in my opinion, the reason why Illinois got the win against Michigan State on the road on last Saturday.
Yeah, force them on the outside. I think that's what kind of helped Illinois there. And look, Michigan State has now lost 4 in a row. Like, I think, look, this is usually the time when Coach Izzo's teams, kind of heated up. That's actually has not been the case the last couple of years, with Sparty. But, look, it is what it is. I think, look, Cockburn is already making a case for National Player of the Year. He's definitely in the conversation. I don't know if he'll win it, but he's definitely right there in the conversation. I mean, Grandison, I think once he's on, I think he's hard to, to beat. 6 to 10 for 3-point range. As long as he's also, if he's hitting his threes, he's sort of he's kind of like a one-man wrecking crew in that sense. So I think that definitely helped them, in that win. And they keep within pace with Purdue. It's between those two for that regular season title and the number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament coming up in a couple of weeks. So this is going to be one of those days where it could literally come down to perhaps maybe percentage points and who sort of blinks first. But yeah, it was a nice win by Illinois on Saturday.
Yeah, but staying with the Big Ten, let's go to the main story. Chicago's very own Juwan Howard, who's the current head coach of the men's basketball team in Michigan. They lost another tough one on the road to Wisconsin yesterday, 77-63. But the main story was what happened after the game. Of course, the Wisconsin head coach called the late timeout with 15 seconds left. Of course, Juwan Howard took exception to it. Of course, when both teams were walking off the court, the refs already left the court. The head coach of Wisconsin slightly grabbed Juwan Howard by the arm, and Juwan Howard stuck a finger in his face, telling him his displeasure of calling the late timeout. Thought that he was rubbing it in, and of course, shoving matches happened, and the players from both teams were getting to a little bit. Thank goodness nothing else tragic came about this. Lakeena, I saw this during the All-Star game last night, and I saw this. I was like, really? I understood if that was the case from Juwan Howard's perspective, that he was offended that the Wisconsin coach took a late timeout when you had the game already won. I understand that, but this is for everybody, including Juwan Howard. You cannot go putting your hands on people and not expect something to happen to you. We do not condone any violence on this show, but when you do stuff like that, you're gonna have some repercussions for that. Like I said, we don't advocate violence on this show, but when stuff like that happens, it's just good. It could potentially get ugly.
Yeah, Greg Gard, that's the coach of Wisconsin there that called that timeout. And I guess his defense was that, he had a lot of his walk-ons because the game had been. I actually had tuned the game out by halfway through the game, halfway through like the second half, especially once Wisconsin had pulled away, and it was sort of one of those things where, it was Bush League, and you got to keep your cool in that situation. Yes, Coach Gard grabbed him, and I guess Juwan got into it with one of his assistants, Greg Gard's assistant. So that's how it all thing kind of manifested. And there's video of the whole exchange. It lasted for like 5 minutes and such. So I actually didn't see it live. Like I said before, I tuned it out because the game was already out of reach. So Wisconsin already pulled away. So I was like, okay, why bother? But then I heard things were happening, online, of course, with social media, and it wasn't a punch. Look, he's from the south side of Chicago. Juwan is, and Coach Howard, I should say, and look, that's what you do. You pop somebody upside the head, open hand. That's what you do. That's what you're chopped on the south side, and no, Coach Greenberg. I know you're from. I know your parents taught you that too. No, I won't even want to hear that you did that. You never did that. I don't even want to hear that. But he'll probably get suspended. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying he should get fired. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired, but this is only the second time. I know if you guys remember last year in the Big Ten tournament when Michigan was playing Maryland, he got into it with Mark Turgeon, who, of course, he's now gone as the head coach, but from Maryland. But this could be like, a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing. I know the Michigan AD, had a statement where that, Ward Manuel, he said, he doesn't tolerate it, and I'm sure he's going to give him a nice turn talking to. Look, I'm sure Coach Howard's going to get suspended for the rest of the season. They got 5 games left. I'm sure he'll miss all those games. I'm sure Gard will probably get suspended a game. I'm sure that assistant will probably be suspended for a couple of games. Maybe a couple of players they might get suspended a game or two because they threw punches as well. But I think all this stuff for the fact that Michigan was they're supposed to have been like this. Michigan was actually one of the favorites to win not only the Big Ten but also to the national championship. And they have not been playing well. So I think that all that frustration kind of manifested, and as you saw what happened yesterday. So I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think it's just sort of silly at this point. But it's one of those days where you kind of just have to keep your cool in those situations. I know some people, we have this whole thing about the handshake line is so passe and blah blah blah. I mean, the handshake line's fine, but I remember Ben Bruss brought this up. He was on Carmen Yurko on ESPN Chicago a little while ago, and he said that Bo Ryan was his coach, and he and Tom Crean, when he was coaching in Indiana, they didn't get along. They just said, bye. They just said, okay, bye. They didn't say anything. They didn't shake hands, nothing like that. So maybe that's probably something they should have done, but that should have been an option. But it is what it is. But yeah, I just think like there's a lot of I think one of the conditions could be that maybe they might have him go to anger management classes because he seems like he has some anger issues. But this isn't like back in the day with Bobby Knight and all the stuff he did. He wouldn't survive in this climate, so I don't even
Oh
want to hear.
no!
I
Oh
don't
no!
think
Not even close.
I don't
Not
even
even, like
want
I
to.
said, we're in a society's different now. Like you say, social media is not going anywhere. Oh, Bobby Knight would have been done a long time ago.
Yeah, he would have been over and done with him. So I'm not even gonna, don't even bring his name up at this point. But yeah, I mean, it is what, like I said, there are all types of issues and frustrations going on at the basketball program right now. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's gonna be multiple suspensions and fines and such. So
Yeah, this is the thing that I think. So I know some people were calling for his job. I don't think he's going to lose his job, but he should be suspended for the rest of the regular season. But if he happens to be suspended for the Big Ten tournament, so be it. The reason why you have to set this precedent is because yes, they're not kids, but still young adults trying to try to prepare them for the game of life. If a light punishment happens to Juwan Howard, that's going to set a bad example. I know that some, not all, but some young people think they just because of entitlement, they think they can do whatever they want, and nothing or little should happen to them. And I think what's going to happen to Juwan Howard is that punishment is going to set the example for his team and everybody else who's playing college sports. So you think you could cause trouble and get away with it? It's just not going to happen. You still got to set a good example for young athletes in particular. Just because you do something, especially now we mentioned social media, you're not going to get away with it. So,
and if he shows some contrition, if he's apologetic and says I'm sorry, then fine. I
mhm.
think he'll be better for it. But yeah, but I don't think I would be surprised if he gets fired, but I don't think I know there are a lot of people that are calling for his job. But yeah, but I think in this situation, I think you just gotta keep it all into account. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get fired either, but I think he will be suspended for the rest of the regular season. He's a leader of men. He sets the example for his players and the assistant coaches on that staff as well. So if he acts like that, if he doesn't get punished or gets punished very lightly, that's going to send a bad message to the rest of the program. So, but I think he's going to get suspended for the rest of the regular season. Should he lose his job? No. But yeah, I bet you this, if that would have gotten a whole lot worse, like the Malice at the Palace many years ago, it would be no question that we were talking about him throwing in his pink slip. So, but getting back to the reality of the situation, I think he'll be suspended for the rest of the regular season. Like you said, there's only 5 games left, correct?
Yeah, there's only 5
Okay.
games left in the regular season, so you might get suspended for the rest of those, including when they got coming up against Rutgers on Wednesday. So we'll see if he
Mhm.
coaches that. We probably won't, but we might get some discipline news there in that front. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee. Let's talk about something that's on the court now, Sid. Um, a couple of upsets here. Florida who got a much needed sort of resume building win against Auburn.
Bruce
63
Pearl, take that.
63-62. Florida had a nice, great defensive stop in that last possession by Auburn that kind of helped to hang on for that win. This actually their highest, the first time they've ever beaten somebody that high. I mean, this is their 14th consecutive home win against Auburn, and that's for tied for the longest against any SEC opponent, and also to the highest ranked opponent they've beaten, in the regular
Mhm.
season. Not counting those national championships that no, Joakim Noah and the rest of them, back in the in the mid 2000s, they don't get a lot of love. But that's a whole nother story. But
Mhm.
yeah, that was a nice win for them. Kentucky continues to sort of be the story and maybe perhaps make a case for 1 seed, beating Alabama by
Mhm.
9. Kansas, pulled away from West Virginia. Arizona holds off Oregon. That was a nice, Arizona could probably be that number 1 overall seed, probably get Gonzaga run. Villanova beat Georgetown. Texas Tech, sweeps the regular season series against Texas. It was a lot closer than it was the first meeting, but they still won nonetheless. They hit their 3-pointers late. Arkansas beat Tennessee by 10.
Mhm.
Iowa, who I thought they were in the tournament regardless, but I'm sure this definitely helps them with their resume. They beat Ohio State on the road.
I was kind of shocked by that, but like you said, Iowa, they'll probably end up getting him. They'll probably get a. It depends on how they finish out the regular season, of course, in a Big Ten tournament. But they probably moved up a couple of spots after that win on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Murray State, stays undefeated in the Ohio Valley. They literally had to kind of like skin their teeth against Tennessee Martin. Also,
Mhm.
Wyoming pulled away from Air Force by 8. UConn, they're kind of quietly, UConn is they're sort of like
Mhm.
right there for the Big East title. They beat Xavier.
Baylor bounced back with a big win.
Yes, they did. Got not much they win there against TCU.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like I said, we're kind of getting down to the wire here. And if you're a bubble team, if you're like in Iowa, if you're like a Florida, if you need those to win to kind of help you with get you that resume in the bubble.
And the results from Sunday's games looked like this. Number 8 Providence defeated Butler 71-70 in overtime. Number 14 Houston had to take 2 overtimes to defeat Wichita State 76-74. Of course, Purdue held off Rutgers, so Rutgers could not pull off back-to-back upsets. But number 5 Purdue, the Boilermakers knocked down Ron Harper Jr. and crew 84-72. And USC ranked number 17 in the country. The Trojans take care of the Washington State Cougars 62-60.
Need a go ahead jumper there to sort of match that game. But yeah, but a good one for SC. I think to keep pace in with Arizona in the Pac-12. Unfortunately for Memphis, they might have taken a hit with their bubble chances. They lost to SMU pretty handily by 16. So that's not a good loss for Penny Hardaway and crew, but they still got plenty of other chances to kind of try to freshen up their resume as we get into today's schedule, for this week. Ohio State will try to bounce back against Indiana. That's at 6:00 on FS1.
Big game for both teams. I think it's bigger for Indiana.
Yeah, they need a win to kind of freshen up their resume. They've been
Mhm.
inconsistent all year. North Carolina hosts Louisville. I think North Carolina. I think they're kind of like they've had their struggles this year, so
It's a
they
bigger
need
game for
this.
them as well.
They need this to sort of bounce back. Maryland and Penn State. That's a 6:00 game on ESPN2. Baylor against Oklahoma State. Of course, Oklahoma State, they're not going to a
Mhm.
tournament this year, but Baylor needs this win to kind of keep pace with Kansas in the Big 12 as they're going down to the wire. Another makeup game, from from COVID. UCLA hosts Arizona State on FS1 at 8:00. They'll try to get their revenge for after they lost to Arizona State about a week ago. So they're looking for their revenge in this game tonight.
Yeah, and I think they'll get it as well. Going on to Tuesday's schedule now in the top 25 in college basketball. At 6:00 on the SEC Network, number 7 Tennessee will travel to Missouri to take on the Tigers. At 6 p.m. on ESPN2, number 18 Arkansas will travel to Florida to take on the Gators. Big game for both teams. Bigger for Florida as you mentioned, Lakeena, try to boost up their resume. Big Ten action at 6 p.m. on the big ESPN. Michigan State will travel to number 25 Iowa. Both teams are 18-8. I think it's a bigger game for Michigan State, especially at the way they got manhandled by Illinois on their home court last Saturday. At 7:00 on FS1, number 8 Villanova will play number 21 UConn. At 7:00 on the Big 12 Network / ESPN Plus, Oklahoma, the Fighting Porter Mosers, they're barely above 500. They'll travel to Texas Tech to take on the number 9 Red Raiders. At 8 p.m. on ESPN, Kansas State versus number 5 Kansas. There's always a battle between those two in-state rivals. And then at 8:00 on the SEC Network, number 24 Alabama will travel to Vanderbilt to take on the Commodores.
And also to those late games, San Diego State and Boise State, both teams are trying to, get into that bubble, the right side of the bubble. That's at 8:00 on CBS Sports Network. That should be a fun one there. Now going into Wednesday's games, sort of, like I said, these games are, as we're going right down to the wire. Duke against Virginia at 6:00 on ESPN, as Duke will try to get their revenge from losing to Virginia last week, via, a go-ahead, jumper there. Mississippi State and South Carolina. Mississippi State, they got a big win against Ole Miss, so they're trying to kind of, shore up their resume. They're kind of like right there on the bubble, so we'll see what happens there. And my screen went blank for a second. So
Yeah.
you go ahead. Go ahead, Sid.
Number 11, Providence will take on Xavier at 6 o'clock. This is Wednesday's action out. 6 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. Providence ranked number 11th in the country. They are 22-3. Xavier is 17-9. Xavier needs this game more than Providence, in my opinion. At 6 o'clock on ESPN2, number 20, Texas will take on 16-8 TCU. At 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus, number 14, Houston will take on Tulane. At 7:30 on SEC Network, number 3, Auburn. They'll try to get back on track as they face Ole Miss. At 8 o'clock on ESPN, LSU will travel to Kentucky to take on the Wildcats. They're ranked number 6 in the country. And at 8 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, number 13, Wisconsin will travel to Minnesota to take on the Golden Gophers. Wisconsin is ranked number 13th in the country.
And also at 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, you got Wyoming, Colorado State. Wyoming, they're right there, in that bubble. CSU trying to get on that bubble, so we'll see what happens there. Loyola versus as they host Evansville.
Oh, big loss by Loyola on Saturday. Oh,
Yeah.
that was
If against Drake, that Drake has kind of had Loyola's number. They swept their season series. This isn't going to help them in their they try to get it as an at-large. This loss will not. That loss will not help them. So
they need this game on Wednesday desperately.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's see here. Let's go to Thursday's games as I try to see. TCU at Texas. Again, TCU needs this. Texas hoping to bounce back, but TCU's hoping to kind of get back on the bubble there. Now, as far as Thursday's games are concerned, Memphis hosts Temple at ESPN2 at 6 o'clock. They really need this. They can't afford to have any more losses, so that they really need, Penny Hardaway and his guys, they need this win desperately. Maryland and Indiana. I think Indiana, if you're inconsistent, unfortunately, you need all the wins you can get. And let's see here.
8 o'clock on ESPN2. This is for Thursday. Number 1, Gonzaga will travel on the West Coast to take on San Francisco. Gonzaga 23-2, as they are the new number 1 team in the country. San Francisco checks in with a 21-7 mark. At 8 o'clock on FS1, down in Champaign, number 15 ranked Illinois, the Fighting Illini, will host the number 22 ranked team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Ohio State is 16-7. Illinois is 19-7. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Illinois was going to win this one. Illinois will have their 20th win on the season. At 8 o'clock on ESPNU, number 19 Murray State will take on Belmont. Murray State 26-2. Belmont 24-5. West Coast basketball will highlight ESPN's coverage on Thursday, 8:30 p.m. to be exact. Number 12 UCLA, the Bruins will travel to the state of Oregon to take on the Ducks. The Ducks are trying to build.
Oregon needs that win desperately.
Yeah. And at 10 o'clock on FS1, number 2 Arizona will take on the Utah Utes. And at 10 o'clock on ESPN2, disappointing Oregon State will host number 16 USC Trojans. So that's your schedule for Thursday in the top 25.
Yeah, I wouldn't say disappointed. I think it was just more because, like I said last year, they had a lot of veteran guys. Oregon State did, so you're basically just starting from scratch. So. Yeah, that's probably what happens there. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, so we're seeing a lot of, of course, the top 16, they released the NCAA tournament committee released their top 16. These are like the top 4 seeds for each region earlier this weekend. Gonzaga will be the number 1 overall seed in the West. They got Auburn number 1 in the Midwest. Arizona number 1 in the South, and Kansas number 1 in the East. Do you have any issues with those as of right now? Again, this will change within the next couple of weeks, folks. So nobody freak out about it. But
as of right now, no. I want to see where they had Illinois ranked.
Illinois, they have them as a 3 seed in the West.
I think that's about right, but they should finish the regular season undefeated before the Big Ten tournament. They should move up a spot. The only reason why I won't say number 1, obviously, because they lost the season series to Purdue. But if they finish out the rest of the regular season, maybe you should consider them number 2 in that West region. Because they're going to have at least 23, 24 wins before the Big Ten tournament.
I think it's all going to depend on the Big Ten tournament. Now, if both Illinois and Purdue meet for the final, I think one of
Which
the
I think is
older,
going to happen.
yeah, the older, unless something weird happens. Usually, weird things happen in the Big Ten tournament. But one of them could probably end up being the number 2 seed overall, number 2, or in that second tier in that 2 seed. So, maybe. I mean, right now they got Purdue at number 2 in the Midwest region, Kentucky number 2 in the East, Duke number 2 in the West, and Villanova number 3 in the East. That's about right. Texas Tech number 3 in the Midwest, Tennessee number 3 in the South, Wisconsin number 4 in the East, UCLA number 4 in the Midwest, Providence number 4 in the South, and Texas number 4 in the West. Now, again, this was like earlier on Saturday, so overall, Texas lost and Auburn lost and such. But a lot of this will change, though, no doubt.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the Monday edition, aka the President's Day edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakeena here with you, talking college basketball. Lakeena, I'll ask you, always tease you that you love your West Coast football during football season. It seems to me that with the success of UCLA and to a lesser extent USC last season, of course, UCLA made it to the Final Four. I get the feeling that at least the powerhouses in a couple of those West Coast schools are coming back. Do you get that same feeling, the same resurgence, at least a couple of West Coast schools? Because remember, USC was a powerhouse back in the day. UCLA was, and a couple other West Coast schools as well. Do you feel like a return to national prominence for those West Coast schools is fully back?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, last couple of years, I mean, I think look, Arizona, I think they only got like 2 teams, last year. So I think this was definitely. Oh, well, no, not last year, but the year before, the year before the pandemic year. So yeah, the Pac-12 basketball's kind of been like sort of on a downturn, but now with UCLA doing very well and USC, doing well, Arizona's looking really good under a new coaching staff. I feel like, okay, yeah, we're starting to kind of finally start, maybe people are noticing that now. So I think having West Coast teams, of course, Gonzaga and St. Mary's and, all those, those bigger West Coast teams, but also like the top tier West Coast conference teams. Looks like the Mountain West might get 2 or 3 teams this year for the first time in like forever, it seems, in Wyoming and Boise State, maybe UNLV perhaps could get in there too. They're on the bubble, I saw. So yeah, I think college hoops is better when it's everyone from coast to coast. It's not just the East Coast teams, particularly the Southern teams, the Midwest teams. I think it's always great when we see those West Coast conference teams. It forces people to watch games after 9:00, Central Time. So, I think that's always great to see. You got a lot of great players there. You got Johnny Juzang from UCLA and Drew Timme from Gonzaga, and multiple others. So it's great. It's always great to see. And like I said before, I think it's coast to coast. You got top recruits going to not just the Kentuckys and the Kansases and those type of schools, but they're going to Gonzaga, they're going to UCLA and USC, and then those places. So it's great to see.
Yeah, I forgot about Arizona. Like, I know they had that strong start to start the regular season, then people forgot about them. And thanks for shouting out Gonzaga too. I know Mark Few's been up there forever. Do you think they can finally break through this year? Gonzaga, I know they were on the doorstep last year and they came up short.
If they would have won, they would have won last year. That was their best opportunity. Now I think there's just way too many teams that could compete. There's a good 10 to 15 teams that you probably say that could win national championship. I think they could put all.
Which is great for basketball. I know Duke is still there, but they're not a team that scares you, at least this season anyway. Like you mentioned, North Carolina, they're still trying to hang on to trying to get to a spot. They're not there this year. Kentucky, they're good, but are you scared of them? I'm not.
Well, yeah, like I said, they recruits. I think the NILs, and all of that. That guys can spread out all over the country, and perhaps maybe get to go to those lower tier, not lower tier, but I guess not the top traditional powerhouses. So I think that's always fun to see. And look, I think next year I think it's looking really good too. I think Richard Batum in New Mexico with Jamal Mashburn Jr. They got something going on there. I think they could perhaps maybe make a run, for the tournament next year. So I think the NILs actually having a lot to do with that, with all of this, and also too, I think we'll see what John Shire does, at Duke next year. I mean, Hubert Davis, will it be like right where they left off, or will it be like Hubert Davis who's having his struggles in North Carolina right now? So it's sort of just one of those things where it all has to set up and line up for you. And that the NIL is probably why Coach K probably decided to retire. But it's sort of one of those things where you kind of you just got to change with the times.
And also too, Lakeena, I know many pundits and big time experts talk about this. You need a Duke or North Carolina to be really good for teams to shoot after. But I think me personally, especially these last couple of years, we've seen it, Lakeena, even during the COVID season, a couple, which even though the tournament got canceled, but I like the way parity is. Like you said, the NIL rule is going to change a whole lot of that as well. I think parity is a good thing for college basketball. You don't need to see the same 3 or 4 teams all the time. I know people talk about it from a TV executive position. You need those big teams to sell the product, but I like that you have 10 to 15 teams that can legitimately win it. Now, does it help that none of those teams big power teams make the Final Four? No, it doesn't. But you like to see a true Cinderella story, and that's what March Madness is all about.
It all sorts of stuff out in the end, though. I feel like I think you get like the 2 or 3 or maybe all 4 teams in the Final Four. Where okay, you know what I figured that this team would go to the Final Four earlier in the year. So yeah, it actually also it all works out. Look, Notre Dame is like right there behind Duke in the ACC. I don't think anybody knows that, but they're like 1 game back of Duke in the ACC. So I don't think anybody had that. But yeah, I mean, look, it's sort of one of those things where things are kind of spread out. I think, like I said, like we were saying, the NIL stuff. All those things sort of, have kind of changed the game. And kind of like guys are saying, what, and girls too, we got to give the ladies a shout as well. I mean, look, like I said, the Tennessee, I know they lost their leads on the women's side. They lost their lead in the score, but I think women's college basketball is better with Tennessee. They're right there. I know Paige Becker's from UConn. She should be coming back soon. I think they need her because they've been struggling a little bit without her. And, South Carolina and Dawn Staley, what she's done with that program. So, yeah, I think, look, it's great to see that we're seeing like non-traditional powers, get right there in hoops. So, and I think, like I said, I think it makes college basketball better. I think it makes the product better, I feel like.
We had to towel off Lakeena and take our 2-2 break. When we return, we'll wrap up today's show, including news about the NFL and possible more games on different days. And could we also see a possible boycott? We'll get into that and a whole lot more. You listen to the President's Day edition, the Monday edition of Second City Sports. I'm Sid. That's Lakeena. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMat.com presents the Sports Flash, powered by the Score app on 1330 and 95.9 Sports Zone Chicago. Men's basketball this weekend, 12th ranked Illinois won at number 19 Michigan State 79-74. Jacob Grandison with 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. The Illini now 19-7 on the year and 12-4 in the Big Ten. Northwestern lost at Minnesota 77-60. Pete Nance with 18 points in the loss as the Wildcats dropped to 5-11 in the Big Ten, 12-13 overall. The Blackhawks fell to the Florida Panthers yesterday 5-2, the 3rd straight loss for the Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago is back home on Thursday when they play host to the New Jersey Devils. Bulls are back home Thursday to host Atlanta. Download the Score app today. Lightning fast sports alerts so you never miss a thing. I'm John Thayer on 1330 and 95.9 Sports Zone Chicago.
For your consideration, the most exciting debut of the season, unlike anything you've ever seen. It's the new Staples Connect store. Critics call it jaw-dropping. Victoria Adams of Retail Review says, I laughed, I cried, I redesigned my logo and bought an Xbox. Staples Connect has it all. New small business services, innovative tools to work and learn from anywhere. It will change the way you think about Staples.
Staples Connect, now open at 5665 West Wilshire, 1 block east of the La Brea Tar Pits. Learn more at staplesconnect.com/LA.
Dell Technologies President's Day business sale has arrived. For a limited time, save up to 45% on all our latest gear to work from anywhere with fast free shipping. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business, so now's the time for incredible savings on PCs, along with servers, monitors, and docks, all with free shipping and quick installation and setup through Dell Installation Services. Get started by shopping online or contacting your Dell Technologies advisor today at 877-ASK-DELL. Again, the number to call is 877-ASK-DELL.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the Monday edition, the AKA President's Day edition of the program right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in living color. I'm Sid, that's Lakeena. This is our last segment of the show and our last segment for today, the Monday edition. Lakeena, The NFL continues to make news, and what we heard this morning and last night is not too surprising. It comes to us courtesy of ESPN.com's Dan Graziano. A potential boycott with the NFL Combine coming up. Here's what we'll just read part of the article, what it says. With the NFL Scouting Combine set to begin next week in Indianapolis, a group of player agents is threatening to organize a boycott of key elements of the annual event if it's concerns about a COVID-19 quote-unquote bubble for prospects not addressed, sources told ESPN. The NFL sent a memo last week to draft prospects and their agents outlining rules for the combine, including a bubble that will keep prospects from interacting with their personal trainers, doctors, nutritionists, and agents while in Indianapolis. A group of agents representing more than 150 of the 324 invited prospects has pushed back, saying it will hold its players out of combine drills and interviews if the league does not relent those plans. Those players would, if the boycott is implemented, participate only in the medical evaluations at the combine. They would do their combine drills at their individual pro days instead of in Indianapolis. As of Sunday night, agents in the NFL were discussing the concerns in an attempt to avoid the announcement of the boycott, which the agents involved were tentatively planning for Monday, according to sources close to the situation. On Sunday, the NFLPA issued a memo to player agents in support of the idea of players skipping the combine, an event they described as quote-unquote antiquated and whose existence the union has long opposed. Lakeena, what's your thoughts about all this?
I'm trying to figure out like what is sort of this fight about? Is it because that they don't want the NFL doesn't want coaches there? Is that why they want this the whole thing about a boycott, or is it just maybe they want to open it up a little bit to perhaps maybe coaches and family members, which I don't understand why would you want your family member at the combine? But I'm trying to figure out like what exactly is it are they fighting about? I've heard about it, but I'm just sort of like what are we doing here? But yeah, I'm sure they'll figure it out. I don't think you're going to see a boycott now, especially if it's one like the top players, the top draft prospects. We don't know like these particular agencies and who they represent, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure they're gonna meet in the middle, and I think they're still gonna look they still may limit it, but they may say okay, you may bring like maybe one person, maybe one coach or trainer or whatever, and then maybe just go from there. But I don't think it's going to be a full-on boycott, but that's just me.
I want to see Rich Eisen run the 40 like he does every year. We didn't get it last year or the year before, I don't think. I just want to see him run to the combine. Rich Eisen of the Rich Eisen Show on Peacock, and of course, he is the NFL host on NFL Network, NFL Game. I just want to see Rich Eisen run the combine.
Oh gosh, that's so silly. But so I'm sure they'll figure it out. Like I think it's just sort of kind of silly that this is what they're. Do they even know what they're fighting about? Is it because that they want to limit how many people can come to the combine, or something? So I'm still trying to figure out what all this is about. Like I'm kind of. What is this? But I don't know. But who knows? But like I said, they'll figure it out. I'm sure it won't be like a boycott. Because they need the buzz. The combine does. The NFL needs the buzz, especially with the combine. If you have some of your top draft prospects not there, that's not a good look. So I'm sure they'll figure it out. I'm sure they'll especially with a boycott. That's not happening.
Yeah, and it's a whole lot of money made off this event. Of course, televising it almost 24/7 on NFL Network. So, like I said, they should come up with a resolution of some sort. So we'll keep you abreast of this situation right here on Second City Sports or Sports Zone Chicago. Lakeena, the NFL continues to make more news. This comes to us from our good friends at Awful Announcing. With the NFL schedule being finalized ahead of its traditional spring release, networks are currently lobbying hard for various concessions and perks. That happens every year, of course, and John Orland had a column on the Sports Business Journal. Check it out. Google that. Detailing which perks and changes various networks and outlets are pushing for. There's plenty of interesting information out there, but the bottom line is that Amazon, which will take over the Thursday night coverage for next season, 1 year, they're taking over the year that Fox got out of that deal a year early because it was technically a 5-year deal. But Amazon will take over the Thursday night package for next season, and they are pushing for an exclusive Black Friday game. The online retail streaming entertainment network is already taking over Thursday night, as we just mentioned, and clearly has an eye out to do Black Friday game. Lakeena, I know NFL is number 1 in the United States. Okay, followed by NBA at number 2. But Lakeena, I know that we get 3 games on Thanksgiving Day. Do we really need a 4th? Really? Really?
Oh, that's why I don't think this is gonna happen. And plus, to have it on Amazon, there's only like a couple of 3 or 4 million people who have Amazon. My sister's one of those people.
Mhm.
No, that's not happening. And look, there's already some people who are saying that maybe that they may do a Super Bowl at some point with Amazon. Did you see those ratings for last Sunday's Super Bowl, folks? That's not happening. So for
Mhm.
that's not happening, at least not anytime soon. They said there was
Under
Black
12 million
Friday.
people watched the Super Bowl combined streaming and television.
100, like a little over 100, or just under 100 watching it on television. So
Mhm.
that's not going to happen. They're not going to walk out on that. And so I'm sure the NFL probably just looked at them and said, what dude, you gotta get out of here with that. Amazon, look, we gave the Thursday night pack because none of the other networks want it. So, just be happy with that. And then look, I think it's just silly that they would actually, especially with Black Friday, that's, people are at home, from school and such. So it's just
And during
sort of,
their shopping, so
and shopping, whether they have it online or on, or outside. So yeah, they're not gonna do that. No. And look, there are already players that are not happy with playing on Black Friday too. So no, they're not gonna do that.
I agree with you there. Let's go back home, Lakeena. Let's get into that hockey. Of course, the Blackhawks are
Let's do
struggling.
that hockey.
Yep. The Blackhawks are struggling this season. Of course, the trading deadline has come up in a couple of weeks. I think Marc-Andre Fleury, the goalie for the Blackhawks, I think he'll be shipped off somewhere. But that's not the main story. The main story came out earlier today. Bobby Hull, the Hockey Hall of Fame legend, the Blackhawks legend from the 60s and the 70s, early 70s, he will not be a part of the Blackhawks organization any longer. The 83-year-old was told that he will no longer be used as an ambassador. Of course, he was part of that renaissance in terms of the marketing aspect of it with him, the late Stan McKenna, and now the late Tony Esposito and Dennis Savard. They were part of the push a decade ago to get the Blackhawks back on the minds of hockey fans in Chicago and across the country. Of course, that team started winning, of course, which led to 3 Stanley Cups. Of course, the stories are now coming out that Bobby Hull was notified back in November that his services will no longer be needed. Of course, now with the whole Kyle Beach situation, and of course what Rocky Words did at the press conference right before the All-Star break, Lakeena, this franchise cannot do any more damage, or can they, to get out of their own way?
It's sort of one of those things where, they got rid of Bobby Hall, though Dennis Savard and Chris Chelios will still be doing their, ambassadorship duties. And, the product on the field and on the ice, I mean, it's just, that's not helping either. And, everything. And now there's another pending lawsuit, that's been filed too. I guess like 2 or 3 other, others are saying the same thing, that, that equipment manager in question, did the same thing to them. But yeah, it's like, oh boy, like I think you're just hoping and praying that they just end the season, and we'll see. I mean, I think Washington, I heard that that's what Fleury, they want to trade him to Washington, the Capitals, even though they have one of the best records. Their goalie is a pretty big issue. So yeah, I mean, it's just like, and also with Pat Foley, the way they're treating him in his last
Yeah.
year. Look, all those folks are great. The folks that got him, subbing and such. But we had one of them on.
Jason Ross.
Jason Ross. You got Chris Foster's doing a great job. Mike Monaco, has done a really good job. I think he did the game yesterday, I believe, against Florida. Of course, sadly, the Blackhawks lost again to Florida against the Panthers. So they got a lot of great talent. Of course, you got Kaylee Chelios and such. Kobe Cohen, who's done a great job. With their social media, and also too, he's a former hockey player and a former Blackhawk, so that helps too. And look, they've got some great young talent coming in, and I think that's what they want. I think they want like a younger, and that's nothing wrong. And that's nothing wrong that either having like younger talent there, but yeah, it's sort of one of those things where I think it'll be interesting to see who they get as their GM. I know they've interviewed like various guys as their GM. It'll be interesting to see who they pick, because I think once they start that, I think hopefully, everything else will sort of kind of fall into place, and maybe they can kind of turn the corner and kind of, come back to sort of being that the Blackhawks are becoming an afterthought right now.
Yeah.
At one time they were kind of like the big story, and people were going to games and such. People were watching them on television on NBC Sports Chicago. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
If you heard the crowds at the UC yesterday. I mean, look, Patrick Kane had like a nice, goal from like I think like from the other side, like the right side of the ice there. But there wasn't a lot of people. There weren't a lot of people there, so that's another thing. But yeah,
Mhm.
they're gonna need to. It all starts at the top, and hopefully once they get a GM who's no nonsense, who can kind of help sort of mitigate and not get caught up in the minutia of everything. And
Mhm.
hopefully this will be the start of something that made the Hawks can turn around.
Yeah, with the product on the ice, and then with like you said, with those issues off the ice, we said it before. This franchise needs an overhaul, and so it's going to take some time. But it's factual that this franchise desperately needs. You're listening to Second City Sports, wrapping up today's show right here on Sports Zone Chicago, live in the Living Color. Sid, Lakeena here with you. Lakeena, today is President's Day, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the MLB lockout, of course, 1 week from today, as the owners have said. Baseball wants the players to come to an agreement by this time next week. I think they can
Mm-hmm.
still get a deal done by next Friday, which is, I believe, the 4th of March.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, players and owners are meeting in Florida as we speak. Lakeena, do you really think that the players will give in some to get a deal done, or will you think they'll hold their ground? Because as we said before, they don't get paid until the season starts. So right now, the urgency is some people say is not there, but I know the reports came out on the weekend saying that very important people from both sides are flying down to Florida, have flown down to Florida as we speak in meeting. I still think something's going to get done. I don't think it's going to be by this time next Monday, but I think they'll get something done.
I mean, it'll be. I hope so. I think a lot of people. You're kind of getting to that down to the wire here because you're supposed to be doing spring trading and such as
Yeah,
we
this is
speak.
going to the
So
second week of spring training
yeah,
is supposed to
yeah,
take place, and
yeah,
they're going to announce that sometime probably later this week that the second week of spring training is going to be postponed or whatever, and give a revised spring training schedule. Assume they'll reach an agreement by this time next week.
yeah. Let's hope so. I think it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of get to an agreement because, like I said, you're getting to baseball starting to become like that afterthought too. So
Hmm.
with the NFL and the NBA and March Madness starting in a couple of weeks, I think look, you just gotta try to roll with the punches and see. I'm sure the players will probably have their own proposal. So in
Hmm.
hopes that maybe the owners will bite. Maybe they can come to some middle ground. But I think at this point, who knows? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do there. And it's gonna be kind of like interesting. Can they make an agreement before before the end of the month? The end of the month is next week, folks. So if they don't do that, by the end of this week, I mean, we may have some games that are canceled.
Yeah, I think it's you need to have a deadline, but I don't think it's going to be February 28th. I know that's what they said publicly, but as I said before, I think they can get this thing done by this time next Friday, which is the 3rd of March, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
March 4th. So
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll have a deal done by then. If you don't, like you said, the regular season's in trouble. I always proposed to this, Lakeena, throughout the years. I want to get your thoughts on this. Remember back in 1995, they started the season mid to late April because of the string along from the 94 strike. They had a
Mm-hmm.
145 game season.
Yep.
Let's be real. I think, all the TV deals are renewed, I believe, with ESPN and Turner
Mm-hmm.
and Fox, of course,
Yep.
home of the World Series. But I already said this, you play a 145 game season. And then, of course, I believe you're going to get an extra round of playoffs, I believe, starting this season, whenever they come to an agreement. I said this, Lakeena, the way the schedule is right now with 162, you're going into perhaps the second week of November. Lakeena, the way things are going right now, you're not going to start the regular season in mid-March. It's too cold, especially at this part of the country where you're broadcasting from, especially here in Chicago. But you cut down the schedule to 145 games. You can start the playoffs the last week of September, and you could end exactly at the end of October. Right now, the way they're going, playing 162 games and plus an extra round of playoffs, or however they come up with that, you're going to almost Thanksgiving time, and you're not going to mess with the NFL. You're
Oh,
not.
well, no, you're not. And we saw what happened last year. So I think it's going to be one
Hmm.
of those things where you hope that maybe they'll figure that part out and say, hey, you know what? It still snows in some parts of the country and it's still cold in some areas. No one wants to play baseball in the cold and the snow. That's why you have spring training in Arizona and Florida. So
Hmm.
hopefully they can get to, I would say maybe actually a string even shorter, have like maybe 100 games. So that way, you do like 2 trips at interleague and such. You can play a lot of your divisional opponents, and that says they won't do that because that's not there's too much money at stake apparently. So
Exactly.
it's like then they won't do that. And I mean, common sense would say that, hey, the 15 games, sure, 145. Although I'm sure that's kind of an odd number, so I don't know if they're gonna do that. Maybe 140. So you got a nice round number there. But yeah, I mean, I've said before that the baseball season is too long, the regular season, and like you said, you're going into like almost like a Veterans Day as to the season's over with. So I would think that maybe if you're smart, which who knows what the baseballs they've shown they're not very smart. So I would say just try and do it that way. But I'm more about the minor leaguers and what they go through, and not being paid a lot and then such. So I think that's another.
They're not unionized either.
Yeah, they need to unionize and sort of try to maybe get better conditions and such. Hotel places, hotel rooms, and things like that. So that's another thing they got to figure out.
And also, too, with the vaccine situation we talked about last week, Lakeena, these organizations, even though the restrictions are starting to get lifted in parts of the country, those teams are going to threaten them like, okay, we'll trade you somewhere else or you'll get released. If this is your dream, if this is your dream to make it to the big leagues, you'll take this vaccine. So we'll see what happens with that situation with the minor leaguers. Lakeena already said this back to the scheduling part. If you have 145 games, how are you going to make up the 15 games that are lost? Simple. With the extra round of playoffs, could it be like the divisional round we have now, the best of 5? And of course, we all know that baseball is supposed to have a separate stream as far as making money. So, what other ideas and other avenues of income can they make up if they ever went to 145 games schedule for all teams?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a thing they're gonna have to figure that out too, and hopefully they will. So they probably will. I think Ron Manfred needs to go as commissioner. They need to get a new commissioner, but that's a whole nother conversation. So we'll see what happens there. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. As we got a few minutes left, along with Sydney Brown, I'm Lakeena McGee, and we got some big news here from ESPN Chicago. They have announced who is the God rest his soul, Jeff Dickerson's new replacement going to be for covering Bears games, and it's a familiar face to people who, if you follow the ESPN NFL, it'll be Chicago's real Courtney Cronin. She wrote a very nice tribute saying goodbye because she had been covering the Vikings the last 5 years. She was actually JD was actually a mentor of hers. So, I'm sure you'll be here. She's great, hosting shows. I've seen her on ESPN radio hosting shows. So I'm sure they'll give her the opportunity to do it here in Chicago for ESPN 1000 and such. So I think I think JD's sort of smiling down, saying, okay, yeah, you guys made the right choice. So, and she's terrific. So I'm sure Chicago was probably already know her already. If you listen to her on ESPN radio, and also too if you read her work on ESPN, ESPN.com, ESPNFL.com. So Courtney Cronin will be the new Bears reporter for ESPN Chicago.
Yeah, congratulations to her. She does great work, and I expect her to do the same here in Chicago. So congratulations to her once again.
Right. So we still got like 8 minutes left. You can tell that things are kind of I don't want to say dead for this time of year, but look, shout out to Bubba Wallace, who was just edged out of winning the Daytona 500 on Sunday. Of course, people were wondering whether or not Michael Jordan, of course, he races for Michael Jordan and then Hamlin's team. There was word that maybe not MJ wouldn't make it to the ceremony. He did. The NBA 75 ceremony. He did. He made it to the ceremony, and Cedric, had 23. Now the second youngest to win the Daytona 500, and and unfortunately, NASCAR has kind of become like an afterthought. It's kind of becoming right there with you could probably say the NHL, where it's kind of becoming like a footnote, unfortunately. So yeah. So it's just congrats to him. Also a Penske team. I think it's like the 12th time that a Penske car has won the 500. So so NASCAR is kind of becoming an afterthought at this point. But again, it's still a big race, so got to give them a shout out. Also to the XFL, I guess, by the NFL, the patron dish as part of their deal. I guess it's not going to be a developmental league, I guess, if you can say it that way. But I guess they're kind of going to use like the same, I guess their partnership, I guess. The same sponsorships and whatnot. And and the Rock's a part of this too. So you got to think he probably played a part in this, this whole thing, whole new partnership between the two of them. So
that's why he was yelling at the Super Bowl last week.
Yeah. So it's definitely good. So I guess it's had a lot to do with it. So they have a pack there now. So maybe they'll use the same same I guess they'll use the same like trainers and such. So I guess to get it top notch, but I guess health and safety and such. So they're gonna help him out there. But yeah, I guess this is a nice move for both sides. I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting with the NFL partnering up with the XFL because remember they XFL was operating the first time it was ran by Vince McMahon and they were anti-NFL. Of course, NFL took some elements from the old XFL, including those over-the-head robotic cameras, which they still use to this day.
Yep.
Remember NFL Europe back in the 90s, Lakeena?
Yes.
That was, I'm not going to say it was the world's greatest football, but it was very interesting. Of course, Kurt Warner, now Hall of Famer, came out of that league. Of course, other notable players came out of that league as well. I don't think the XFL is going to turn into NFL Europe, but it's going to be interesting what the NFL does if they're trying to meddle in the XFL's business, talking about how the style of football is supposed to be played.
And also, too, they're actually going to be playing games in Europe next year and in Germany next year. We got the London series now. They're going to be playing in Germany. Have decided. I think this almost said maybe Hamburg, maybe Munich, maybe Dusseldorf, where they had some of those NFL Europe teams. It's because they got the stadiums for those. So we'll see. I mean, it should be interesting to see what they do there. But yeah, it's interesting that they are doing this partnership. I guess The Rock probably realized he's a pretty smart guy. I think he probably realized that it's probably maybe good for business. So
yeah,
I'm thinking partnering up with the NFL is probably a smart thing to do. I think if you're him, so it's not. I still might not watch it, but I'm glad that that's an option. I'm glad they're doing it. Sort of health and safety and those type of things. So which is always a good thing to look out for. So it's cool. I'm fine with it.
All right, last topic for today before we call it quits, Lakeena. I've been hearing a whole lot about this show. It's streaming on Peacock, and it's called Bel-Air. It's supposed to be the dramedy version of the Fresh Prince Bel-Air. Of course, that comedy from the 90s with Will Smith, Tatiana Ali, Karen Parsons, and that whole crew. R.I.P. James Avery, a.k.a. Uncle Phil. I heard a lot of good reviews on this. I believe the first 3 episodes are up. I know new episode streams every Thursday. Have you checked it out yet?
I'm not going to, because I think that if you want to do a completely different version of it, there are various versions of this show already. You got All American on the CW. Of course, you've had the OC, so it's sort of like the same thing of it. So I think, look, if you want to do something different, do something different. Don't try to copy. Try to use the original version of Bel-Air. I've heard some people say that I don't want to watch it. They try to make it a dramedy. It's sort of like, nah, you know what? It's the reboots are becoming it's becoming too out of hand at this point. So I'm kind of over reboots for the most part, unless there's some other good ones that can deserve reboots. But yeah, I'm not gonna check it out. Now, unless you want to, you can tell me, but I'm not gonna watch it.
I think I might check it out because, like you said, things are slow in terms of basketball this week. They won't restart until Thursday. I had some inklings of checking it out. I think I'll check out an episode 2 out. If and when I do, I'll let you guys know my honest review of it. If I think it's good, I'll let you know. If not, I'll trash it. So we'll see what happens with that. I was thinking about checking it out this week. So at least the beginning of this week is slow. Sports wise, outside of college basketball.
Yeah, I got other shows that I need to stream and I need to catch up on too. So, and that's not one of them. So, I'm glad.
Okay.
Look, I'm glad it's there. Look, it's always great to see Black people work full behind the scenes.
Of course.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing though with me. I'm not gonna support a show because it's Black or Hispanic or whatever. If your show is good, I will tune in. Or if I'm interested in your show, I will tune in. I'm not gonna be one of those. Oh, I'm gonna watch this just because it's a Black. No, because there have been some bad shows that have been terrible of all races. So I'm not even gonna, no, sorry, not happening. So y'all can yell at me if y'all want to. I'll send y'all right back.
And I concur. Mic drop. On that note, it's been another great episode of Second City Sports, the Monday edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Happy President's Day if you have the day off, whether school or work or what have you. I'm Sidney Brown along with Miss Lakeena McGee. It's been another great episode, Lakeena. We had the All-Star game, which wrapped up last night. Of course, the NBA will not return until Thursday as they are enjoying their time off. Of course, we have college basketball to look forward to this week. Of course, hockey's still going on. The Olympics are over with now. The Winter Olympics, we didn't mention that until just now. So the Winter Olympics are over with. So things are slowing down a bit in the sports world, but the NBA, as I mentioned, they'll resume action on Thursday.
Well, speaking of the Olympics, I will give a shout out to a Black woman who has accomplished a lot. Alana Miles Taylor, who is a bobsledder who won the silver in the Erica Miles Taylor. I think that's how I got her name mixed up there. But she won the silver in the mono bob, which is basically single woman bobsled. For those of you who are wondering, I don't know why they. Excuse me, I don't know why they did make the whole thing about a fancy name for it. It's basically one person bobsled. That's basically what it is. Alana Miles Taylor. She won the bronze in as a break woman in the 2-woman bobsled. She's now won 5 medals. She's won 2 silver and 3 bronze medals. She is now the most decorated black athlete, male or female, in Olympic history, Winter Olympic history, I should say. So Alana Miles Taylor, that's what's up, and she's doing her thing, still in her 3rd Olympics, and winning medals and such. She should be getting some love right now. So also Erin Jackson too, don't forget her, winning to become the first Black woman to win an individual gold medal in speed skating. In case you guys missed it, we talked about it last week. But yeah, so we're kicking, there you go. So there's your Black history fact to FYI.
Yes. Oh, Lakeena, one more item before we go. Thank goodness you just reminded me. We are saluting, this is still Black History Month. We're still saluting our great entertainers / singers who make contributions to society and the world at large. Today, we'll do it real quick. The Gap Band. This is the Gap Band 4 album from the year 1982. I know one of the brothers passed away a few years ago, but that's Charlie Wilson on the front cover there. For those of you watching, of course, if you're listening back on our replay, this is the Gap Band album number 4. Of course, they're from the state of Oklahoma. Real quick, they had some hits on this album. Early in the Morning, classic.
Yes.
Seasons, No Reasons to Change. Lovely Like Me. Outstanding. Girl, You Knock Me Out. That's been sampled many times by hip hop artists, including Ashanti. Stay With Me. You Dropped the Bomb on Me. Folks, history lesson. That is not a love song. It is a tribute to the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the Black Wall Street incident back in 1921. Go look it up.
Yeah,
I can't get over you and take it back.
They're from Tulsa originally, for those of you who don't know. So that was a tribute song to do with that dark moment in history. Look it up, like you said. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's we're paying tribute to Charlie Wilson in the Gap Band today. This is the Gap Band 4 album from the year 1982. If you can see it real closely, Keener, I know we're broadcasting from Chicago. You see the label Metro Music. Remember that store? You grew up in the Chicago area back in the day.
Oh, good Lord. The old Metro Music store. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it was one that I lived near. It was on 103rd in Calumet. I know they had one on 87th Street just off of Stony Isle. I forgot the 3rd location, but that was just right before Blockbuster Video. So those was great times. And real quick, you can make it, even though the Gap Band, they dominated the majority of the 80s with the whole funk era and everything, you can make an argument that Charlie Wilson, who's now solo, he's having a better career than he did when he was with the Gap Band. And the Gap Band was very popular back then.
Yeah, he has his share. I think he's won a couple of Grammys too, I believe. So
yes,
Ronnie Wilson, who his brother passed away last November. So for those of you who are wondering, which there were 3 of them, but yeah, he's unfortunately no longer with us. But Charlie's still doing his thing, and like I said, I think he's won Grammys in recent years. So he's still kicking butt. He's got to be like 71 or something like that. He's got to be even younger than that, 71. He's still kicking butt. So yeah, look, you guys have probably heard it sampled. All their songs, I'm sure, has been sampled. Like I said, Drop the Bomb on Me is one of my favorites.
Yes.
So that's one of my favorite hits of theirs.
I'm gonna get do. Of course. Never mind.
Yeah, I'll say you got to pay royalties for that. Early in the Morning, another favorite of mine. I think that was a top. I think the Drop the Bomb on Me, I think was like a top 5 hit. I think Early in the Morning was like a top 10 hit in the pop charts too. Of course, it was number 1 in the R&B charts. But yeah, so they kind of changed the way, like putting big band and hip hop, big band and R&B, putting that together. They were actually one of the first guys to do that. So
yeah, so we paid tribute today to Charlie Wilson and the Gap Band. Lakeena, close us out.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you can follow us on the podcast version at War on Anchor. And you can follow War Media, aka WARR Media, on all social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Make sure you tune into Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as you young folks would say. Sports Zone Chicago, Second City Sports, every Monday, every Friday, noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And you'll be listening to us on another platform as well, but we're not going to tell you just yet because we're still in the planning stages, but that's some of the teaser for you guys.
Yes, we love giving out teasers around here. For Lakeena, I'm Sid. This has been Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We will talk to you again on Friday.
All right. Wash your hands, and if you're not going to get vaccinated, make sure you guys wash your hands, wear your masks, and be good to each other. And as Sid says, this is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Holla!